The singing bowl is a wonderful invitation into stillness. This is the next in our series of guided meditations, and in some of the other sessions we've been exploring the idea of approaching mindfulness differently to how we might have been taught, or differently to what we've been taught to expect. There is this assumption that we haven't really noticed, actually, that the project involves trying or doing, achieving, and there's a burden on us to do the attainment or the achievement of what seems very complex and impossible. And a lot of that project, a lot of why that is so complex and so elusive to so many of us, is because we are trying to solve for a problem with the part of our brain, the part of our thinking, the part of our reasoning that is equal to the problem. We have very different ways in which our left brains and our right brains hold the conversation with life. And all of the world that we've created around ourselves, the lifestyles we've created, the interfaces of connection online, the hard edges of the world, of our architecture, of our processes, of our engagement, these things all make sense to this lesser version of ourselves. This part of ourself that isn't so fluent in the language of stillness and love. We call this the left brain. We're learning now, through the work of psychologists and neuroscientists like Ian McGilchrist, that our ideas of what the left brain and the right brain does is cartoonishly inaccurate. We get taught that the left brain is all about logic and mathematics, and the right brain is all about creativity. And it's almost right, but it's, as I said, cartoonishly incorrect. The actual difference is in the way that each of those have their own distinct personalities because of the way that they see the world and themselves in the world, this idea of self. The left brain sees everything in the world as an object. It objectifies everything and everyone else. Everything in the world and everyone else is either for or against self. Everything is a bit of information or detail to be parsed and evaluated for opportunity or for risk. The right brain is the one that can deal in contexts of what is happening ambiently in the world. How do I fit in the world? What is the metaphor, the symbol, the story of what's happening that I'm watching? And when we tackle projects and tasks, a lot of our left brain is absolutely necessary for that, to sit and process and understand and solve and problem solve. But meditation and mindfulness is not a problem to solve. So the very thing that jumps looking for ways to solve this conundrum, this challenge, is in fact the thing that we're trying to get around. And one of the ways we can do that is to actually speak in the language of the right brain. Now, we get taught this language as children. It's the language of fairy tales, of myths, of symbols, of allegory, of archetypes. Not to say that they are childish stories per se, but another way of speaking about myth is a way of telling lies that actually tells a greater truth. Saying things that aren't factually true from a left brain perspective, but which are necessarily true in the world. So what we're going to do is we're going to invoke this right brain side of our perception and our engagement with the world. And one of the ways is through the wonderful singing bowl. And the other classic way we learned as children was through those magic words, that invitation that said, once upon a time. Once upon a time is a prefix that says imagination rules here. Imagination. And we have to go through the door of imagination sometimes to see the world and to see the truth of the present moment without peeping through this distorted window of the left brain. And why that is because when we say once upon a time, we are allowing a suspension of disbelief. We are saying the normal rules of logic and reason do not necessarily need to apply to what follows next. In other words, left brain, this is an invitation for you to sit back. And in the same way, this is an invitation to your thinking, reasoning, problem-solving, fretting, chattering mind to step back, to ease away, to allow the deeper part of us to wake up and emerge into the following invitation. So find your seat, lie down if you want to, just be comfortable. Close your eyes and take a few grounding breaths in your own time. Nice and easy, nice and slow. There's nothing to do. There's no problem to solve. This is not a riddle. Mindfulness is not a task. The mindfulness that we're leaning towards or allowing to arrive is that property of spaciousness, of present awareness, that actually exists all the time, that we can drown out in the way that we lean forward, already grasping for something that cannot be grasped with the hand that's reaching out. Stillness, that sense of space, is not something that our chattering monkey mind, our left brain, can encounter or touch. And the more we reach for it, with that grasping hand of our chattering mind, the more elusive it will be, and the further it will recede. The trick is to unclench this grasping hand of the mind. Stop trying to label things. Stop setting an agenda of how this needs to look. And just breathe deeply. And put down the project of expectation. Put it down. Just notice the sense of space that opens up, that doesn't need labeled or described. There's a few ideas we're going to pin into the space in our minds, and one of those ideas is simply begin again. There's no gold star for attainment or for reaching there and staying there. This is not what the project is about. We're practicing here. And the definition of practice is not so different from the definition of play. As soon as you lose it, simply begin again. It's part of what teachers of mindfulness refer to when they say beginner's mind. Just be here, peaceful, nothing to do, nothing to fetch, nothing to achieve. Just allowing yourself to show up the way you are, allowing the signature of your nervous system to be exactly what it is, allowing. That's another one of these ideas we're going to pin into the sky of our mind. Simply begin again and allowing. That means allowing background noise, allowing disruptions. Our bodies will itch. We'll find ourselves uncomfortable. We need to clear our throats. We need to swallow. These are not intrusions on the practice. These are just the landscape of experience. Our minds are very intrusive and very busy, especially if we haven't developed a habit of stillness. And we develop that through practice. And the surest way to slow that practice down and slow down the integration of that habit is through a sense of frustration, through being unsatisfied with where we are now. All progress is a series of following stepping stones. This moment, right now, is a stepping stone, a necessary stepping stone in your practice. We don't get the beautiful garden that we want from just one afternoon of digging. But beautifully, we don't get the garden that we want without also that one afternoon of digging. This is a necessary stepping stone. And each step is the threshold to the next step. And we always have to give something up at each threshold. And the word written on that idea we're going to pin into the sky of our mind is surrender, allowing to be the journey that it is, allowing the landscape of intrusion and experience to be exactly as it is, allowing the background noises to be as they are, allowing the busyness of our chattering mind to be as it is now, allowing the sensations in your body to be what they are, the noises beside you, the potential distractions, allowing all of it. Surrendering the need to achieve something that you expected. This is how the left brain thinks of everything. Now is not its time. Simply begin again. Allowing. How much permission can I give myself to rest back and let go, to stop the show, stop trying? Just let it be. There's a sense of spaciousness that opens up inside of us. And in that space, we can feel things that have actually been there all the time that we've only noticed once we allow this letting go and allow things to be what they are and actually pay attention to what's in the field of our awareness. The taste of our mouth. Our mouth has a taste in it. There's a sensation of having skin. There's a way that it feels to have 2 arms, 2 hands, to have fingers. There's a sensation inside your head, in your scalp. There's a sensation to breathing. There is this wonderful property of hearing another person's voice arrive. Like pebbles dropped into thick oil, just sliding under the surface of our awareness, one at a time, creating these gentle ripples throughout our awareness of their meaning. And when a sound arrives, we didn't need to fetch it. There's no way to hold it. And even when it disappears, you can kind of feel the trail it leaves behind in its own invitation deeper into stillness as you allow it to recede. And there's a way to hold all of the experiences, the physical sensations, the warmth, the noise, the feelings of effervescence and tingling in your body, and just imagine it all as this disembodied cloud of sensation, so that this landscape of experience actually becomes this field of sensation. And you can relinquish the illusion of all the hardness and precision and clinical reason that we frame the world in. Here now, we're safe to let go of all of that. Put down the need to know, the need to be something, become something. Just allow. The implied invitation in this is that in this place of stillness, someone can ask us our name or where we left our keys, and we'd be able to answer those questions without leaving the space. There is an aspect, a property of conscious awareness which can engage very intelligently with the world without this urgent nattering and anxiety of left brain. And we can actually come back into this space as often as we like, and we can actually get up now from our cushions or our seats and move about our day and stay in some version of this as long as we like. We can also come back here whenever we like. There's nothing special about sitting on a rubber mat or in a yoga studio or on a special cushion. You could be sat anywhere. You could be walking. As long as you're safe and you're not walking into things. But you can snatch these moments out of the jaws of the calamity of busyness and drama at any point in time. And the intention with this style of meditation that I'm teaching is not to make it a 10-minute exercise or a 20-minute practice that you do on a mat once a day. It's eventually to let this bleed out into the rest and the whole of your life. I heard a story about a monk who, towards the end of his life, disclosed that he had stopped praying. And the assumption that you automatically reach for is that he had lost his faith. And what he arrived at was rather the sense that his whole life had become a prayer. And there is a way that we can adapt that kind of approach, that kind of way of seeing what we're doing here. And instead of dedicating a few minutes a day to this project of mindfulness, our whole life can become a meditation. Our whole life can become a conversation of mindful awareness. So I realize this is unorthodox and this might be different to what you expect, and I hope it is. And I hope it's given you a different insight as to the way that you might approach mindfulness and the necessity of getting this thinking, chattering problem solver actually out of the way for a moment, because it cannot do the thing that it's trying its hardest to do. It is, in fact, the thing that is getting in the way. And there's a lot of ways of explaining that conundrum and that challenge and that problem. It often gets explained very mystically or very esoterically. But I like this insight of the left brain and the right brain, because it is actually a fact of neuroscience and of our psychology. And it's also a fact of the duality of a human experience. That said, I hope this session has added value to you, and I hope it's helped you deepen your own practice. Thank you for your time and your participation. I hope this gives you cause to come back and keep participating in these sessions. And until next time, take care.